Good morning, judges, ladies and gentlemen. We are a group of BCom Accounting third-year students from the University of KwaZulu-Natal and are here to present our recommendations for you this morning. My name is Steffen Wies and I will deal with all issues relating to the Napoleon fine.
I'm Mahomed Osman and I will handle the implementation of the Shared Service Center as well as our continued operations in Ilania.
My name is Rudolph Wies, and I will discuss the finalization of the financial statements, the expansion into the Tunisian market, as well as ethical concerns.
Today, our recommendations will be based on our underlying strategy of streamlining our existing operations before expansion. Streamlining frees up MCOM's resources and allows the company to focus on core competencies. This creates a more effective and flexible organization which will consolidate its foothold in the African market. With lower priority, MCOM should then consider its expansionary opportunities, which is in line with the board's risk-averse stance.
Finalization of the financial statements requires the immediate attention of the board. This is due to the fact that the audit will commence in 21 days, and a delay in the audit may impact the audit deadline set out by the Sedimban Stock Exchange listing requirements. Now, there are two issues that need to be dealt with. The first, contingent liability needs to be raised in the notes to the financial statements in order to represent the Napoleon fine. The second issue is the sale of the impending sale of the network towers, which needs to be classified as a non-current asset held for sale and disclosed as a current asset. This will be measured at fair value less cost to sell. I'm now going to hand over to Steffen, who will discuss the Napoleon fine implications.
Thank you, Rudy. The Napoleon market is of particular importance to MCOM as it is the company's most profitable operation. A lengthy court battle between MCOM and the NTRA, or the Napoleon Telecommunications Regulatory Authority, will cause friction between the two parties and may affect the renewal of our operating license in the future. This current legal strategy has also and will continue to tarnish the reputation of MCOM, as Napoleons have the view that the company is an associate of terrorist organizations with no concern for the consequences of their actions. It is also highly unlikely that MCOM will prove the NTRA's lack of authority, as the company set a precedent by accepting the fine meted against them in 2013. Thus, it is recommended that MCOM does the following. Firstly, MCOM should request from the NTRA the details on how the fine value was determined. This will allow the company to assess where it is possible to negotiate for a reduction. Secondly, the company should apply for leave from the court to attempt an out-of-court settlement. This form of negotiation will remove the details of the negotiation from the public space, giving the parties more freedom to negotiate. Finally, through a mediation process, MCOM should negotiate for a fine reduction based on a variety of factors, such as those determined in Step 1, as well as the going concern of the Napoleon operation and the effect that this will have on the economy of that country. This process will yield a result that will ensure continued cordial relations with the NTRA and prevent further tarnishing of MCOM's reputation. I'm now going to move on to the fine repayment strategy based on the assumption that the full 58 billion Sedimban dollars will have to be repaid. Should this be the case, we recommend the following. Firstly, the full 20 billion Sedimban dollars from the sale of the network towers will have to be used, as this sale was made in preparation for this fine repayment. We're then of the opinion that further equity instruments should be used to generate approximately 31%. I'm sorry, my label seemed to have gone a bit skewed. To generate 31%, while the issue of, or the raising of a further loan should be used to generate approximately 26%. We're of the opinion that further equity instruments should be issued to a greater extent, as while it is a more costly form of capital, it is a less risky one, this being in line with the board's risk-averse stance. Finally, only 9% of the fine amount should be generated from the unutilized funds of the company, as these cash reserves are essential to maintaining a positive liquidity position. I'm now going to elaborate on why we have elected to make a greater use of equity. Firstly, the shareholders have already been approached and have indicated their willingness, and we feel that the company should take up this offer. Secondly, we are also able to avoid a fixed commitment as a result of issuing equity because we do not have an obligation to repay this form of capital. We have made use of a loan to a lesser extent because of cash flow concerns arising from the fixed nature of this form of capital, because we have no choice but to pay this loan back regardless of our liquidity position. The raising of a further loan also has a negative impact on gearing, which increases the volatility of shareholder earnings. The shareholders will then require higher returns on their investment, and in the current state, we feel that MCOM may not be able to provide these higher returns. Thus, this is the optimal repayment strategy, bearing in mind the philosophy of streamlining current operations. I'm now going to hand over to Mahomed, who will deal with the shared service center.
Thank you, Steffen. We recommend a strategy of implementing the shared service center for the 19 other African countries, while maintaining a dedicated service center for our Napoleon operation. We will begin with the reasons why we have elected to maintain a dedicated service center for the Napoleon operation. Firstly, the implementation of the shared service center will export Napoleon jobs to Sedimba. This will aggravate negative sentiment towards the MCOM brand. Furthermore, a dedicated service center will attempt to hedge against currency risks that we may be exposed to due to the volatile nature of the region. The negative publicity associated with transferring our Napoleon operations to Sedimba may reduce our revenue. With fixed costs remaining constant, we may experience diseconomies of scale. Due to the volume and complexity of transactions specific to our Napoleon operation, we maintain that a dedicated service center is required. Transferring Napoleon operations to Sedimba will have a detrimental effect on our employees, as they will lose their livelihood as a result of this decision. Implementing the shared service center will sacrifice our long-term opportunities for short-term profits. We must now consider the 19 other African countries. We recommend that the shared service center must be implemented for these regions, as it will be more efficient due to economies of scale. The reduction of the cost of employment will ensure that MCOM becomes more profitable and competitive in these regions. In considering our employees, in the spirit of goodwill, MCOM should engage in constructive and rational dialogue to ensure that a win-win agreement is made. Additional corporate social responsibility projects should also be carried out. The strategy of implementing the shared service center for our 19 other African countries while maintaining a dedicated service center for the Napoleon operation is the most effective method of streamlining our operations. We must now consider the uncertainty in Ilania. We recommend that the board sells JV Cellular to Bettini. The fact that this is a cash sale is vital, as this will assist us in mitigating future liquidity issues arising from the Napoleon fine. MCOM should negotiate for the payment to be made outside of Ilania to avoid sanctions. The quantitative factors are inconsistent with qualitative factors. However, we assert that qualitative factors have a greater influence on the decisions needed to be made in this region. Qualitatively, selling to Bettini is the most stable option. This is in line with our policy to consolidate our financial position before reckless expansion. The sale to Bettini eliminates short-term and long-term risks associated with remaining in the Ilanian market. if we remain in the Iranian market, we will be exposed to US-led sanctions as a result of the nuclear enrichment program. Furthermore, we may lose our investment entirely due to the draconian policy of nationalization that could be enforced upon us. The option of selling out share for share to Turkey's leading telecommunications operator poses a high level of risk. This is because we have minimal amounts of information available to us about this company. As a result, we are unable to make an informed decision. As a result, the sale to Bettini is the most stable option and is in line with our policy to streamline our operations. I will now hand over to Rudy, who will shed some more light on the issues on Tunisia as well as ethical concerns.
Thank you, Mahomed. For its expansion into Tunisia, MCOM has three options. The first is to enter alone as a subsidiary. Now, this is extremely risky for a number of reasons. Firstly, the political environment in Tunisia is not conducive for MCOM to enter the market alone. Secondly, MCOM does not have the economic prowess to enter a market dominated by 4 competitors. Also, it will be very expensive to enter this market alone, and due to the Napoleon fine, we may experience cash flow issues. Thirdly, MCOM is not as technologically advanced as its competitors, never having used or marketed 4G networks before. The second option is not to enter the market at all. However, because we have recommended disinvesting from Melania, the MCOM board needs to consider other expansion opportunities. Tunisia is a perfect option for this, and this opportunity may never present itself again. Therefore, we are recommending that MCOM enters the Tunisian market as a joint venture with CloudNet. This is a less risky option, as CloudNet already has existing operations in the Tunisian market. It is also an existing license holder and a Tunisian company, which makes the license bidding process less risky and less expensive. Furthermore, CloudNet has also had the experience of rolling out 4G into a market, as it was the first to do so in the Tunisian market. Therefore, MCOM can use this experience gained by CloudNet in its rollout of 4G in Africa, which will boost it to the #1 service provider on the continent and consolidate our position in Africa. I'm now going to move on to ethical considerations. Ethical considerations plays a major role in business today. Now, there are 2 issues that have not previously been dealt with in this presentation. The first is in Nicolia, the legal issue in Nicolia. This shows poor corporate governance, as the directors are disobeying the law of the country in which they operate. This may have serious public perception issues, as the Nicolian people may believe that we are affiliated with terrorist organizations. Therefore, we recommend that the board issues a full public apology and confirms that it is not related with terrorist organizations. And additional corporate social responsibility projects should be done in areas affected by terrorism. The second issue is in Alania. Now, the government there is in gross violation of basic human rights, with MCOM appearing to assist in this. This may have serious global public perception issues, as a greater importance is being placed on privacy and the protection of information by our users. Therefore, we recommend that MCOM immediately begins its disinvestment process from Melania to ensure that it no longer has to hand over sensitive information. Ensuring that ethics are incorporated in all business decisions will help consolidate our global operations.
Looking at the variety of issues faced by the Board of Directors of MCOM, we have proposed recommendations with the aim of streamlining operations before expanding.
Today, our recommendations have emphasized the need for MCOM to consolidate and streamline its operations before expanding into new markets.
The Board of Directors also needs to consider ethics and good corporate governance in all its decisions. This will ensure continued and prosperous future for the company. With a lower priority, it should consider its expansion opportunities, especially into the Asian market.
Thank you.
It's on the side. Okay. Oh, wait, Chris.
Thank you very much for your energetic and clear presentation. I have a question on your proposal of risk mitigation actions to get out from Ilania. And based on the current information, you decided to not go into Turkey because you don't have the information. What is the rationale behind that you believe that the sellout in Bartini, you will be able to take out the cash out of Ilania? What is information that you might have, or the rationale that you have that you will be able to take out the money if you sell out to Bartini out of Ilania?
We are saying that we should negotiate with Bartini to ensure that the payment isn't made from within Ilania, so that we avoid that altogether. We avoid the process of taking out money from Ilania. So Bartini will pay for JB Cellular, our stakehold in JB Cellular, which is 49%, and they will make the payment to us from outside instead of paying from inside within a bank from within Ilania, so that we eliminate the process of removing our money from Ilania.
All right, thanks very much for your presentation. You recommended the use of improved corporate social responsibility project as a way to repair the damaged reputation of MCOM in terms of the failure to, in terms of the fines. Don't you think that why it is good, but it's now damaging the use of corporate social responsibility as a public relations exercise rather than a careful thought strategy in terms of the integration of the needs of the society to the needs of the company? That will be the first question. The second question is, I am impressed with the integrated thinking in terms of you, of course, identifying various risks and making recommendations which include your legislative, political, social, economic. But I did not hear issues around environmental. That might not be direct to the case study, but I think it has a very huge bearing in terms of the company. Will you share what environmental risks are involved in all 5 cases, and what mitigation strategy will you employ?
Okay, so I think I'll start with the first question, which was about the corporate social responsibility programs. So yes, while we accept that corporate social responsibility projects should be used for good public relations, we also goodwill. We also MCOM needs to consider that it needs to repair the damage that it's done, or that it's perceived to have done, because perception is very important in business. If our customers no longer trust us or no longer believe that our brand represents them, then we're going to lose market share, we're going to lose revenue, and that will detriment the company in the long run. So we believe that we need to repair the damage done by using corporate social responsibility programs. It's also in the areas affected by terrorism, so it links directly to sort of the misdeed that we have done in the areas.
We also feel, just on that corporate social responsibility, that yes, we shouldn't be using it for public relations. But MCOM has not yet, to our knowledge, performed any corporate social responsibility projects in Nicolia. And we feel that now is a perfect opportunity to consider that. And we don't recommend that the board advertise that they have engaged in these responsibility projects. We feel that the board should do this purely as a sort of recompense or a apology to the people of Nicolia as a result of their actions.
Okay. The second question was about the environmental issues. So, I don't know, how do we want to do this? So we're going to start in Nicolia.
Let's just go with it.
Okay, well, in Nicolia, obviously, environmental issues are obviously very important because it's a developing economy, and we need to try and ensure that the economy that we are working in develops sustainably. So in our decision to maintain our dedicated service center in Nicolia, obviously there are environmental aspects that we have to take into consideration, and the board will have to make those adjustments to their current operations. Okay.
Done.
In Tunisia, obviously, because we're entering as a subsidiary, we would obviously need to inspect their environmental their environmental policies and codes, and perhaps provide recommendations to areas where we feel that they are lacking in environmental.
I also think with evaluating the environmental issues, Africa is a type of market where each country is diverse. They have diverse issues, they have diverse problems, specifically also in environmental. So we can't just do a blanket analysis or solution to environmental. We have to look at it in this country. What do we feel is the issue here, and then make solutions to this issue.
Thank you for the presentation. Maybe first a comment. In terms of the sale of Ilania, wouldn't that just be considered as a scheme of arrangement to bypass the legislation and everything that goes with it? Just a thought. Then I like the view consolidation before expansion. So explain to me then the strategic rationale to then do an acquisition now.
So while we are focusing on consolidation of our market, obviously we can't grow, our business is not sustainable if we're not looking at opportunities to grow. And the only way, well, one of the big ways that a company can grow is through expansion. So while we are while we're looking at an expansion, it is at a lower priority to the board of directors. The issues that came first, so the Nicolia fine, the issues in the shared service center, and the Ilania issues are more important and need to be focused more, the board needs to focus more on those issues before its expansion opportunities.
We want to consolidate our financial position and our strengths at this point in time before we just go out and expand recklessly. We want to ensure that we are in the solid markets that will generate a lot more revenue than just going in and ensuring that we maintain our operations in risky environments.
We also feel that the Tunisian takeover or the Tunisian expansion is a medium-term issue. It's only occurring in 2018. So we feel that the board right now can start making plans to invest in CloudNet. However, the Nicolian Fine and the Sudirman Shared Service Center obviously take priority, as they are issues, current issues firstly, and secondly, it's consolidating our strength in our main market, which is Africa.
Maybe just a comment again. The worst time to issue equity is if you have a depressed share price. So consolidation for me would work, but not everything at all costs. Just a comment.
Right, thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. I quite enjoyed your qualitative analysis in terms of telling us some of the pros and cons, the negative cash flows, and why we should, go for each of the options. What I'm missing a bit is the quantitative analysis, because as a board, we're trying to make a decision. And although we are looking at ethical, social responsibility options, but at the end of the day, our company is also set up to ensure there's value to shareholders. And we need to know the financial implication of each of the options that you've given us. And I'm missing that. And even the readjustment to the financials, you have told us the implicating IFRS, but we are not really sure what does it mean. What position are we going to be financially?
Okay. This is in relation to qualitative and quantitative.
Yes.
Well, we have evaluated quantitative factors. However, the quantitative factors came to a conclusion that we would remain in the Iranian market. And now, with remaining in the Iranian market, we felt that quantitatively it eliminates or does not take into adequately consider the risks associated with remaining in Ilania, and such as the nuclear issue as well as nationalization. So we felt that the quantitative or mathematical solution, which was to remain in Ilania, didn't adequately, or it didn't take into account these risks, which were qualitative. And so we felt that these qualitative risks, specifically because we are risk averse, we felt that these risks posed a higher importance to the quantitative, and we felt that it needed to be emphasized, and we needed to consider, hey, these risks will be detrimental to our future operations within this country. And that's why we maintained with qualitative.
Okay.
Thank you very much for listening to our
Presentation,
recommendations.
yes.
Thank you.
We need to go out that way, I think.